Okay, welcome to this presentation about long-term care and how it works into income planning for retirement. And let's see, get through our disclosure there. And there are a lot of things to consider when you have a journey toward retirement. We're going to talk about that journey. But there is a corollary here. So, what is the goal when you're climbing a mountain? Most people would think it's to get to the top, right? But the answer should really be to get back down the mountain successfully. So when you're preparing for retirement, you are in the accumulation phase and you're climbing the mountain. So when you're younger, you're just accumulating and accumulating. But as you enter retirement and you come down the mountain, you enter the distribution phase. And that's an important time that you have to focus your strategy on income. You still have bills to pay, you still have places you want to go, medical expenses, etc. So you have to have income for that. And distribution phase retirement year is all about actually not so much how you built up and how much you save, but how much you are now going to pay yourself and how you are going to really, at the end of the day, spend your retirement. So everyone needs to plan to successfully get down the mountain. Now, there's certain obstacles that can send you on detours or they can halt your descent altogether. And these issues and obstacles can include having enough income to sustain your retirement. The low interest rate market currently is a huge hurdle for people that are trying to keep their income coming and flowing. Rising healthcare costs are another important aspect of what can detour or halt your descent altogether. And having enough income to pay for long term care is another factor. Now, the average cost for 1 year, I want to talk about long term care for a minute and how much of a detour this can become. The average cost for 1 year in a private room in a nursing home was over $97,000 in 2017, which is a few years back now. Now, keep in mind that averages are middle of the road projections. So half of the people are going to need less than this, while the other half are going to need more. The current rate of inflation is around 4 to 6%, but let's just factor a conservative rate of 3.5, which here we are in 2021, and we're past that. We are doing the sixes again. But we're going to use 3.5. So that $97,000 today at 3.5% can quickly turn into 137,000 plus in 10 years and almost $194,000 in 20 years. So if the cost today in 2017 was 97,452, and you think 20 years from now is probably when you're going to be in a position that maybe you can't take care of yourself, you need some help, you're now looking at $193,000 a year with really subdued inflation. So let's understand the trends here in what impacts long-term care costs. Higher demand, first of all, as our population ages, demand for long-term care services increase. So the higher demand is likely to cause increasing costs. We've got longer lifespans, so advances in medical technology are definitely helping us live longer. But as access to those new technologies increases, then so does the cost to use them. You've got family dynamics. Most parents don't want their children putting their lives on hold to provide care. And if they did, then will the care responsibilities be spread equally amongst your children? Probably not. It's not a conversation. I've worked with a lot of families on this subject, and they have a lot to say when they come to the table, and I'm always shocked, that they haven't had that conversation before I got there. So the family dynamic is, everybody's willing to help, but at the end of the day, they're not necessarily willing to do the dirty work it takes to take care of mom and dad in terms of real care. And the government is also a factor. We have programs today. We don't know what will be available in the future. We don't know who's going to qualify and how they'll need to qualify. So these are all things that are impacting, where the trends are going and the future costs. Now, each of the trends that I just discussed can have a significant impact on another emerging trend, Alzheimer's. Now, Alzheimer's, is a degenerative disease that impacts memory, and there is no cure. And the disease often requires long-term care services for an extended period. I think it's really the most, dementia, more than, well, you're getting sick and you can't move your body, which is a reason a lot of people get care. A lot of times it's the mental factors which go on for years that are more the reason people need care than they can't get out of bed. So this is a big factor, is the cognitive degeneration. Now, there was an estimated 5.5 million Americans age 65 plus with Alzheimer's in 2018. Let's see here. Those numbers are going to increase rapidly in the coming years due to the baby boom generation, because by 2050, the number that are expected to have Alzheimer's will nearly triple from 5.5 million to 13.8 million. So 1 in 10 people over 65 currently has Alzheimer's, and by mid-century, someone in the US will develop the disease, they say, every 33 seconds, if I have my information correct. All right. So let's put that $194,000 into perspective, because that cost is just for 1 year. When you consider the average need for long-term care services, which is 2.2 years for men and 3.7 years for women, that's average, the cost of a private room in an extended care facility for that period of time is going to exceed $700,000. Now, remember the prevalence of Alzheimer's? The average number of years for care post-diagnosis for that, because these numbers I just gave you are, here we are, like 3.7 years, women, men. But if you look at Alzheimer's cases is around 8 years. So if someone has Alzheimer's, you're looking at close to $1.5 million in care to live 20 years post-diagnosis. And the only way to hedge against these astronomical expenses is planning, is doing some planning for a possible long-term care need. Now, who needs care? An American turning 65 today has nearly a 70% chance of requiring some form of long-term care services in their lifetimes. And of those needing care, 20% will need it longer than 5 years. What is long-term care? Long-term care is items like wheelchairs, services like home care, facilities like a nursing home. So these are all related to long-term care. Emotional conversations, they don't necessarily cost you, but if you don't have them, it will in the future. Okay, long-term care is simply, it's another bill to pay. It's simply another retirement expense and another bill to pay. And expenses impact income in retirement. So the point is that it's when you're looking at the expense of retirement, you're looking at, what will it cost? Well, I do, well, okay, what will your car cost to run? What will your, whatever you're going to do, your mobile home, the other things you've got. But if you don't plan this in, then you have an incomplete expense and income plan for retirement, because for most people, it's going to happen, and it's going to happen in some way that if they aren't prepared will be somewhat impactful. Okay, so questions to ask. So in your retirement years, what could cause your expenses to outweigh your income? That's a really key question. For example, if you're living comfortably on a budget of $200,000 a year, great, that's what we think. That'll be a really nice lifestyle. But one day you call your financial professional to say that you need to be taking out an extra 50 to 70% more for your retirement savings every year in addition to the $200,000. So what might happen in your life to cause that situation? How are you going to find that extra 50 to 70% a year. Most people know that a health issue can cause them to become frail and need care. How would you find that extra 50 to 70? This is what we're saying, the point of this show, the name of it, which is that is the great retirement income gap. It's that unforeseen extra push at some point that is over and above what you think your lifestyle is going to be. So let's talk a little bit about that gap. It's more than just a concept. So the great retirement income gap, uh, that exists when your expenses exceed your expected income. So in this example, you could be living comfortably on $100,000 a year. Good. That's comfortable. Don't have a lot of need. It's a good life. But what if your income needs suddenly skyrocket? So an Alzheimer's diagnosis could widen the gap even further. All right, so if you need to find an extra $50,000 to $70,000 a year to cover unexpected expenses, would you be worried? So long-term care is an income problem. That's again, I'm just reiterating. It's an income problem. It's not an asset problem. It's not like, do I have enough money set aside for it? When the time comes, it's the flow of income because you don't know how many years it'll be. So you have to have income to cover it when it's happening. How to bridge the gap? Well, first of all, you can self-fund. So one option is just to cover the cost yourself. Okay. So you could liquidate some of your existing investments to obtain the income that you need to cover expenses. You could do that. Liquidate your existing assets. Now, that isn't ideal. You have to have those assets and investments saved for the future, perhaps to pass on to your heirs. And instead, you could create a new income stream to help cover those expenses. So, what are the effects of this great retirement income gap? Well, how could you, if you had a sudden need for additional income, how would it affect you? That's really what you have to ask yourself. So, long term care is an income problem, it's not an asset problem. So, one option to cover the costs is you do it yourself, you self fund. So you could liquidate some of your existing investments to obtain income that you need to cover your expenses. That's one way you could do that. Now, that isn't ideal. Um, you've got whatever managed accounts, and you could liquidate some of your annuities and cash equivalents. I guess you could go wherever you got to go. Um, Instead, you could create a new income stream to help cover these expenses. So one is create one by just liquidating something, or you could create a new income stream. So, how do we create this income stream to fill the gap? So, if you were to self fund, this is an example of an option that may work for you if you were going to self fund it. And this is a concept of asset based long term care, which I want to go a little more extensively into here. If a portfolio has moderate, conservative, or aggressive type assets, most people will prefer to use their conservative assets first in the event of needing long term care. Now, the IRS has allowed uh, certain life insurance and annuity contracts to be accessed while you're alive, tax free, so gains and everything, for expenses associated with needing long term care. Now, by using this kind of an option, you could actually reposition an amount into a specific policy that's designed to provide a stream of money to pay long term care expenses to help avoid pulling the money directly out of other investments later on. Lifetime coverage is the only option. In other words, if you pull it from somewhere else, we don't know how long it'll last. When you use this, you have the ability to install a lifetime coverage, and that's the only option to help pay for the entire length of an extended care need if you do have Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or dementia. So the benefits are triggered by an inability to perform 2 of 6 of the activities of daily living or severe cognitive impairment as a result from illness, injury, or aging. So that's how you access it. But what you're doing is you're repositioning a conservative asset. Now, you don't have to use the long-term care to still hold that asset, but you're basically putting the asset somewhere where it has a trigger that if it needs to be drawn down, it can be drawn down for an unlimited amount of time with a safety net because it's being used for even cognitive impairment. So, how do we create an income stream to close the gap? So, we rarely get asked, I rarely get asked, how does this work if I die? Most people understand how life insurance and annuities work when someone passes away, but we usually get asked, how does this work if I need it for my care? So this diagram explains how the concept works. We call this our timeline, okay? And to the left is day one, and a plan will begin with either a life insurance policy or an annuity first. We call this the base policy. Now, there's several things that can fund this. Take you can take money from other insurance or annuity policies, or you can just put new money in. So the funding for this comes from cash lump sums, annual premiums from other policies that are being now diverted to a policy that has a big long-term care benefit added to it or included. You can do non-qualified annuities that are not IRA annuities. You can do qualified money. IRAs can actually do this, and IRAs are an interesting case because I don't know if we've got a good coverage of it on this slideshow, but you can literally take IRA money that is taxable and turn it into a tax-free long-term care benefit if the benefit gets paid out. And another option for this is cash value life insurance. So all of those pieces are possible in terms of how to fund something like this. Now, once the base policy is exhausted, the continuation of benefits option kicks in, and it keeps paying the amount for an extended period up to your entire lifetime. And you can fund the policy via cash, CDs, savings, life insurance cash values, other qualified retirement money. There's a lot of ways to fund it. There's also payment options available for those that are using an income stream to pay rather than an asset reposition. These are two different ways of doing it. You take a conservative asset, you just reposition it where you get more use out of it, more leverage out of it, or you can fund it as you go. The annuity option uses a non-qualified money only, so you can't do an IRA with that. But the continuation of benefits option can be funded by single premium or fixed annual premiums. So there's a lot of ways to do this. The premiums are guaranteed, and the policies we use is really important if you know the history of long-term care and the industry and what's been happening the last few years. The products we use on this, these premiums are guaranteed to never increase, and they do have certain tax incentives. Let's pull this concept into perspective by reviewing just some hypothetical examples I want to show you about our whole life products on this. So you have this married couple, and they earn a good income. They've done a great job of preparing for retirement, except for arranging for long-term care. Very, very typical. They've accumulated assets to cover some costs related to in-home or facility care if needed. So they've got some assets. However, they're concerned that one or both of them may need extended care for due to their family history, because there's some Alzheimer's or Parkinson's in their family history, and they understand that the lifetime protection is probably the best option for their needs. Okay, so this is like a real cost benefit little examination we're going to do here. Okay, so now again, I don't know if this is exactly today's rates. Once you're in a contract, they can never change your rate. But frankly, if you wait, and you should have gotten a contract 5 years ago, the prices may go up for new contracts. So people that wait could wind up paying a higher rate than what they saw on these contracts years back. But once you're in it, it's guaranteed. So we're pretty close on this in terms of current rates. This couple takes $140,000 of dead money because it's sitting in a money market or CD. It's not doing anything much there except falling behind inflation. And they decide to leverage it up for use of a long-term care asset. So they take $140,000, and in this case, $107,184 goes to the base life insurance policy, and $32,811 is just basically leveraged into this extension of benefits for a lifetime. It's called the continuation of benefits rider that comes with it. So again, the base in the rider is $140,000. Now, what does that buy for them? That buys $70,000 each of a lifetime income stream for long-term care expenses. So that from day one, anything happens to them, they've got $70,000 each, which really means together they put $140,000 in, they get $140,000 per year for both because they're both covered on this of a lifetime income stream specifically for long-term care expenses. If they were to invest $140,000 and it made 53% per year, every year forever, guaranteed, that would match this sort of lifetime income stream, and it would still just be for one person. If they invested 140,000 and they made 106% a year guaranteed, that would generate the 148,400 for lifetime. So it's tremendously leveraged. Now look, the fact is there's a little bit of underwriting that goes into this, and the companies don't, I mean, they take on the risk. If you need it tomorrow, you could get it tomorrow, but they also underwrite. And if they think you're really that close to making a claim this year or next year on it, you're not going to get the policy. So this is in reality what you're entitled to. Insurance companies are smarter than this, and most people that get these policies are going to go 10, maybe 20 years down the road before they trigger the benefit. But the fact of the matter is, from day one that you've got the policy, you qualify to have the benefit triggered if you need to. And again, I say that with a little bit of an asterisk. Some of these policies will say you pay the first 60 days, then we come in for a lifetime after that. But I'm talking the general term of once you own the policy, you have the benefit. Now, this married couple, this other one, has a high income and they'd like to just cover all aspects of their retirement strategy. They're working on it, they got good income. They just want to make sure they're covered for everything. So they saw what their grandparents went through and how their parents had become caregivers. So now they just want to make sure that that situation never happens to their children. Okay. High income, starting to consider all aspects, family history, personal experience. They have a health savings account, and they have plenty of life insurance. Okay. So what do? So they just go and they just say, we'll just do a $4,000 a year annual premium. $32.19 a year goes into the base policy, and $781 goes toward the extension of benefits, the continuation of benefits. Okay, using the HSA, which they can do, which means they're now paying tax-free money out of the HSA to cover this part of the premium. So now you can't do that on the base policy because that's a life insurance policy. But the premium, the extension of benefits, that 781 is considered a straight cost of long-term care insurance, and an HSA will let you pull that out tax-free. That's going to cover them for 62,000 per year each of a lifetime income stream specifically for long-term care, which is 124,000 for both of them if they were to both go down, and they're paying $4,000 a year to have that coverage. All right. Do we have another? Let's see. Oh, here's a couple that are using the required minimum distributions. So they're taking money out of an IRA. Now, again, this is a little dated because it used to be that when you were 70 and a half, you had to begin those no matter what. Even if you didn't need the money out of your IRA, you had to take it. In this case, this is it's now 72. So more recently, it's become 72. But we're still going to take the idea here of using an RMD to cover it. So we have a married couple, and they're comfortable, and they don't even use their RMDs. They're spending about $11,000 a year right now as RMDs, 70 and 71. They're taking that much out of their IRAs. Okay, they don't want to reposition a lump sum. They're just looking at using their RMD. So their financial advisor has managed their investments and done very well, and they just don't want to reposition a lump sum. So they understand the costs, and they can supplement with other income if they incur expenses. So they're going to take that. In other words, they don't need the RMD. That's the bottom line. So they take that, they reposition this. 8226 goes to the base policy. 2804 goes into the lifetime benefit stream. Total premium is 11030 a year. That buys $53,000 for each one of them. And that's about right because I have one that's we got in our mid 60s, and it's about $5,000 annual premium, maybe six, and it's giving us about this much benefit. So for this, again, mind you, let me just point this out. My wife and I got a policy when she was in her late 50s and I was in my mid 60s, and it was about half this price for the same benefit. So the rates raise rapidly if you age and you keep letting rates season, or if you season and you haven't gotten, locked in on a rate. That buys $53,000 each a year, lifetime income stream specifically for long-term care purposes. That's $107,000 per year if both of them go down for the $11,000 annual premium. All right, so let's take a look at Catherine here. So Catherine has an annuity that has an income rider. It's just another way of paying for it. All of these are just different examples of where people find the money to then pay for these benefits, which will be a multiplication of the money that they've got, a growth of it by use of the benefits. So she has an annuity with an income rider. Now, she's concerned she'll need care. She doesn't want to rely on her family members who are scattered across the country. So that's just standard epiphany. Oh boy, I'm going to need to care for myself. The second epiphany she has is she has a good income. She knows she's handling her current expenses, but she couldn't afford a big bump in that income. Like she couldn't afford an extra $5,000 a month. That's not affordable. So now she's got two reasons to start looking at some way to think ahead on this. She owns an annuity with an income rider, but she has no plans for that income. I see this a lot with people who bought several annuities. They were planning on making sure they had enough income, making sure they had enough income. Then they get to an age where they don't need all of those annuities triggered, and they're still sitting on annuities that have income riders that could be used to pay for these. Um, so she decides that she's going to turn on $12,000 a year on her income rider. Now, they're going to withhold 20% for her taxes. Um, and with that, she's going to buy this life insurance policy with a long-term care benefit. So she's now got $9,600 a year that's going to forever, for the rest of her life, get paid out of that annuity income rider. So again, money's coming from an annuity. She triggers the rider. The rider gives her $1,000 a month or $12,000 a year. After taxes, that leaves her $9,600. And she has at age 65, according to the rates at the time the slideshow was done, which is a little outdated. They're probably not quite as good these days. But at the time of this, she could get $9,600 a year into her hand for an annual premium. So 8334 is going to pay for the basic life insurance policy that provides a death benefit and provides a period of time to pay benefits until it runs out. But she's going to use $1,266 a year to buy a lifetime continuation of those benefits. Again, the lifetime is a continuation that if the base policy is spent out and done, she's put forward some amount of premium to pay for a continuation of those benefits. The result is she's got $9,600 a year to pay the premium for a policy. That's going to give her $60,204 per year on a lifetime income stream for care expenses. So in other words, puts $9,600 a year in, and that's going to now give her a total benefit of $60,204 per year for the rest of her life. As long as she needs it for long-term care, she's going to get it, which is equivalent to about $5,000 a month. So that is just another way of funding it. $5,000 a month. Chances are, and the reason this can be done is at 65, if she needed the care right now, she wouldn't get the policy. Keep that in mind of how they underwrite this and how they get these multiples. They're probably looking at it, they do an exam, and they probably figure out, or, just sometimes just an interview on the phone, they figure out chances are this woman's not going to need long-term care until she's 80. So for 15 years, she's going to be paying $9,600 a year to hold those benefits. But they are lifetime benefits. And if she did it for 10 years, and paid him and then took a benefit, she would have paid $96,000 into the policy. It's not peanuts. And she's getting $60,000 a year back out if she does need care. So the companies aren't stupid. These are good numbers. They are a good way to leverage money and buy a benefit. But the companies also know that they're not stupid about how they underwrite this. And mind you, 15 years from now, $60,000 a year is not going to pay for all of her long-term care needs. So this is just an essential policy that she's putting together at that age. And a lot of people did that. We did not plan for all of our expenses yet. We were building it, but my wife and I did plan to make sure that a good part of those expenses were covered before we had to dig into our own funds. So let's put this concept in perspective by reviewing some hypothetical examples using the annuity products. So this is not the life products. This is a different way. This is using an annuity for the same benefit. So this woman here, she's got an annuity with a 3% minimum rate guarantee. Okay. So she's got about $200,000 in it in case something happens to her. And it's guaranteed at 3% a year. Now, she would need to show a tax-free exchange to pay for care expenses and lifetime benefits to pass the suitability requirements. The annuity would allow her to stay in her home as long as possible if she became frail and needs long-term care. Okay, backtrack that. All right, so this is kind of a strategy of an underutilized annuity. So this woman recently retired, and she's got a solid strategy for she's got a good pension. It's going to provide her the income that she needs. So she purchased this annuity. She has an annuity she purchased years ago with a life insurance death benefit after her husband passed away. She took his death benefit, she bought an annuity. The value has grown substantially. When her advisor asked her what she plans to do if she becomes frail, she says she's concerned that she won't have enough. Yet she does not want to pay premiums. She's got money, but she doesn't want to pay more premiums. She doesn't want to let go of what she's got. She doesn't have children. So the idea that the insurance company could pay her care provider when she's not able to was appealing to her. So she exchanges the annuity that she's got into an annuity that actually has long-term care benefits. That's the point of this, is you can take an existing annuity, which has a tax liability if you come out of it, and you can flip it into an annuity that just now has long-term care benefits. So this base in the rider contract is $150,000 that she does through what's called a 1035 exchange. The internal charges then pay for the rider. That is a $150,000 base annuity. But this particular situation, it's a 63-year-old female, she's able to buy a continuation of benefits of $450,000. So what she's getting for flipping that is $600,000. That's 75 for a year. That's how much this would pay out. It would pay for 8 years specifically for long-term care. That's $62.91 a month, 96 months of income specifically for long-term care expenses. That runs 8 years. She has gotten $600,000 of long-term care benefits. Now, these companies aren't stupid. You know, some people will use the benefits, some won't. Some will use all of the benefit, some will use less than. Many will wait a long time before they need the benefits, and the insurance companies do well from that. But the fact of the matter is, as leveraging goes, this is the most tremendous way to take existing assets and simply add a feature to it. So the point of all of this is to, get started, to start the conversation, start looking at this. Let us do some quotes for you. Let's look at different ways to get it covered. So, we begin to talk, you meet with me, we'll look at all the options, we'll get a plan together, and you will tell all your loved ones about the plan. And so here's the contact information. Give me a call. Let's talk about it. 888-882-5578. Write me at Bruce at straighttalkwealth.com. And we should have this presentation up on a page with a whole lot more resources for you to learn all about long-term care needs and long-term care coverage and benefits. Hey, thanks for watching.